I have spoke at AWE in the past. I've been working in this AR, VR, XR space for quite some time, back even to leading photo walks for Google Glass. But it's just, we were scheduled to do events back in, I think, March of 2020, and the strangest thing happened. So it's really fantastic to see all of you here. Thank you for coming out. I'm going to be talking about how we got our Ingress players to crowdsource millions and millions of portal nominations, these playable locations, and how we applied that same game mechanic and game design to AR scanning. This would be helpful. So on Ingress, to give you some background on what Ingress is Niantic's very first real-world game. It was created 9 years ago. Our 9th anniversary is actually this coming Monday. And it's a game of territory control. So our two factions, the Enlightened and the Resistance, they're battling for control by creating these triangular control fields. So connecting 3 portal locations to create these fields to either evolve or defend humanity. Very simple, very straightforward. Find these 3 places, connect them together. And what we did is we initially seeded that initial set of portals, or the portal network, with things, with locations, geotagged photos from Panoramio, which was Google's photo sharing service, as well as historical marker database. So in the lore of the game, really what the portals are these gateways, these portals into the multiverse, into these other dimensions. And exotic matter, this energy that comes through these gateways, help influence human minds. These are places of cultural, historical, or local significance. And so we set that initial set of portals up for the game, taught players that this is where you go to collect resources, so you hack portals in order to get the keys needed to create these triangular fields, as well as the items that you need in the game. And then after launch, we opened it up for other players to be able to help us crowdsource even more portals, even more playable locations to add to the game board. The way that we did that was through achievement medals. So by nominating a portal, taking a geotagged photo, adding a title, a description, giving a reason for why you felt this specific place needs to be in the game, players earned achievement medals that they would use to help advance their progression in the game. The other benefit was by adding these places to the game board, you had more places to create those fields from and more places to collect resources from as well. It made the game easier to have more and more places to play the game. I think one thing that really sets Ingress apart from a lot of our other titles is the player community. So we call our players agents, like secret agents, and them going out to scout these incredible places of cultural, local significance, these places that matter a lot to our players. What they did was our layering of game and story and lore on top of the real world helped give them reasons to actually contribute, find these geotagged places, submit them to Niantic so that we could incorporate them into the game. And what we found is that our players had these profound connections, these bonds to these really fun, interesting, playable locations, these portals. So people were excited to share the hidden gems in their neighborhoods, the parks that they discovered and wanted other people to also play at. It was the monuments, the statues, the water fountains, sculptures, artwork. They helped crowdsource millions of these portals, which we then had reviewed and then, when verified, added to the game. So when Pokemon Go first launched, that initial set of Pokestops and gyms originally came from Ingress players who crowdsourced those millions of geotagged places, and we used that information not just for Ingress, but for the Niantic platform. So the game, at its core, is about creating triangles. And if you open the game today here in the Santa Clara Convention Center, you'll see that players here have already fielded this area. They've connected these 3 anchor portals to create these fields. So you can create fields as simple as this city block to the next city block. And that's really, like, at its core, what we designed the game to be about, that territory control. What the players did is a lot of emergent gameplay. So if you work in game design, you know that once you give players some rudimentary set of rules, they'll always find ways that are oftentimes more creative or more powerful, larger, more impactful, building upon that initial rule set. And so what the players did was they tried to find ways to make more intricate fields, nested fields, overlapping fields. So it wasn't just about creating a simple triangle, but how can you maximize your experience or your AP? How can you maximize the number of mines you control? How do you maximize the achievements in the game? Oftentimes what gamers will do is do the least amount of effort possible to maximize the reward. That's really at its core one general philosophy that you could apply to many different gamification or games. And so these triangles went from something rather basic to, inside our games, being these hundreds and hundreds of nested fields. The other thing players realized is, in addition to walking or traveling to these 3 anchor locations, these portals, you could also connect with other players and coordinate to create larger and larger fields. So instead of just walking to these locations, if I knew players that lived at the other side of the city at 2 other anchor locations, we could then collaborate to create fields not just over the convention center, but maybe over all of Santa Clara, or maybe all of California, or all over the country, or even all over the world. And so what our players started doing with this very basic game mechanic of trying to create these triangular fields is they really wanted to connect. That social dynamic of really connecting with players across country boundaries, across international and language barriers, they created what effectively was almost like a global game of Risk. And at its core, it really was about, again, the portals, the places that were so important to the game and also to our player base. I think when I think about Ingress, it really epitomizes Niantic's pillars around exploration and exercise and social. And it's not so much about the graphics on the screen or their phone in the pocket, but it's really when you're creating one of these triangular fields and you're going on that 5-mile hike with your friends and throwing that link at the exact right moment so that your team can win the day, it's really about things like this, where the actual gameplay, not on the phone itself, but the experiences that you're sharing with other people, that's what has made Ingress a 9-year-old game that we continue to work on, and that's what's made it possible for us to crowdsource these millions of playable locations. So we started with those achievement medals, with giving in-game item rewards, and then really it's this component, this social multiplayer connection that the global player community have put together that really make the game quite unique. And so what we've done now is try to apply all of those things that we've learned about portal nominations, scouting these geotagged photos, to portal scanning. And so why portal scanning is so critical for our current plans and our future plans is what we're attempting to do is take our 2D map of all of these playable locations and create a 3D map of the world. How might we create a digital twin of the real world? How might we take the information that we have, connect the atoms to bits, and have a full 3D map where we know the 3D geometry of the place, of these sculptures or monuments, so that we can create AR experiences that respond and react to the real world environment and behave more like real objects. And so applying these exact same game mechanics that we successfully did the first time with the portal nomination process, we're doing this again with our portal scanning. So starting with first, these achievement medals. We introduced the Scout medal, which is really incentivizing as many AR scan uploads as possible. So players go out and just upload as much data as you can. If you can, give us that fire hose of information about these playable locations. The next medal was our Scout controller, which is very much like Foursquare's mayorship mechanic. It's the player that has the most scans over the last 30 days. And what we're attempting to do here is, while we're getting as many scans as possible with that first medal, what that second medal is designed to do is then spread players out across as many portals or POIs as possible. So not just having players concentrate at a very small cluster of these playable locations, but really go out and explore and try to do this type of scanning behavior at as many places as possible. The next thing that we did was experiment and prototype with our beta testers, our Vanguards and XM Ambassador players, with item rewards. So we created a virtual geocaching or AR geocaching mechanic where, as a result of your portal scans, you could then, in AR, try to find a scanner crate. You could retrieve that scanner crate, retrieve the items out of that object, and earn rewards, earn item rewards for your scans. But I think really, as we look forward, what we're most interested in and excited about is going back to that actual gameplay footage, that feeling of those shared experiences. These kinds of crowdsourcing efforts are really more than just the individual player's incentive. It's really about going, again, back to that global agent community. And so are there ways that we can create not just shared community goals, try to map the planet, try to map the world, but also give players community rewards as well, so that that player that submitted the individual portal, they're not doing that so that only they have access to that playable location. They're doing it so the entire player base has access to it. We're trying to do that again here as well, where a portal scan contributes to those mapped POIs or mapped portals, and we can then build shared AR experiences on top of that map. There is a bit of a chicken and egg problem. So whereas we were able to see the initial portal network with locations from historical marker database, we don't have a 3D map of the planet today. That's what the players are helping us create. And so that's how we fine-tune that balance of rewards and incentives to asking our players to help us crowdsource this effort. The way that we've used the Lightship ARDK is with real-time mapping and real-time meshing. Anthony is going to talk much more about this, but just briefly, the way that Ingress uses it today, it's live in our game today. You can download Ingress on Android or iPhone and see this yourself if you're on a newer device. But it's to allow players to see what has and hasn't been scanned in real time as they walk around these locations. Anthony is now going to talk about Lightship ARDK.
Thank you, Brian. Hey, everybody. So I'm Anthony Maes. I'm an AR software engineer in the Lightship ARDK team, and I want to stress that it is a pretty large team, and I'm just representing them. I don't want to take credit for too much of it. Also, I'm a little bit of a nervous speaker, but it's the first time I'm speaking, so we're going to find out together how this goes. All right. So I want to share a little bit how the sausage is made. Yesterday, the Lightship ARDK launched for everybody. You can go to lightship.dev and download the ARDK and start building in 5 minutes. And what I want to talk about is that the Lightship ARDK has been built over the years through the collaboration with our internal game teams, such as Ingress. And if there is one thing I want you to take away from this invention is how much Ingress matters to the ARDK. So at Niantic, we like to think of things as a flywheel. And if you're not familiar with the concept of a flywheel, it's when you have separate efforts but they are connected together. Every time you're going to increase or improve one part of that wheel, you're making the whole thing spin faster, and it benefits everything. And so the cycle that we have here is that Ingress was willing to take the bet on being one of the very first users of our technology and give us feedback to help us improve and refine the APIs and also tell us what sort of things they wanted to build, which is something that eventually benefits other game teams and also the developer community. And they were interested in that specifically because it's so important for Ingress to understand where their players want to play. So as part of the collection of portals and points of interest that are crowdsourced, it's really about answering the question, where do the players want to play? And with the ARDK, adding scans to that, it's asking the players, show us where you want to play, so that as they play, they are encouraged to contribute and they get rewarded for it. And the contributions are coming to us at Niantic so that we build the AR map. And the AR map is what's going to build the AR features that powers persistent content and mass multiplayer. And those features will then go into Ingress and give players a more engaging, fun, really cutting-edge AR technology. And what's so great about Ingress is that the whole narrative, the whole fiction of the game is so high-tech, and the players are so dedicated because they've been playing it for 9 years. Like 9 years, picture that. That was 2012. Like, I think Gautier was on the radio, and you remember also like Fun, like We Are Young. That was 9 years ago. Yeah, I know, I feel old too. And it starts with mapping. And so what I want to show here is what the user interface of mapping looks like. It started with the screenshot on the left that we launched a year ago. And all it was like a camera viewfinder. You scan around, you record a video. And players got rewarded for that, but we were not entirely satisfied with the quality of the scans that were coming out of it, because without knowing computer vision, you don't always know how to move. So we worked together to have an improved visualization that's in the middle, that's based on point clouds arriving around you. So it gives you live feedback on what you're seeing. And we noted a 13% improvement in more usable scans without giving any extra rewards. And now, I'm proud to announce that as of last week, we have an even more improved visualization that uses the mesh, where the 3D of the environment spreads and overlays reality. And unfortunately, I don't have numbers for you, because at the time of the scans, at the time of finishing the presentation, it had just come out. But we expect that it's going to further help players share what they're seeing with us, and it will make the map even better for AR features. The last thing I want to touch on is I was introduced as a Tiger trainer. The Tiger team is a prototyping team that was started earlier this year at Niantic. And AR is hard. I think a lot of people in this room realize that. And it's pretty different from traditional mobile game development. And what the Tiger team does is that it brings together in a room people who are experienced experts with AR, who can build rapid prototypes that are standalone, that games like Ingress can test and say, yes, we want to integrate that into our game. And then we work together to help accelerate the integration and help turn game developers into AR game developers. And so that's with Ingress, and that's also with a lot of the other games that we have in production or in the pipeline. So with that, I want to leave you on a note looking at what people will have shared with us, that vision, those scans that they've taken of their favorite spots in their neighborhoods or when they travel. And imagine with us, and maybe suggest to us, what it would be like to bring the world of Ingress in full AR, in 3D around us, and live up to that promise that we made almost 10 years ago. And that's being made possible by the AR map, which is made possible by the contributions of the players themselves, made possible by the Lightship ARDK. So with that, I think we'll move on to question. Thank you very much for following along. And a very quick plug first. We're hiring. So find us on LinkedIn, Anthony Maes, and yeah, let's chat. Can you use the microphone? I think people following us virtually can hear the questions better.
Hello. I had a question. Right now, it looks like Lightship is kind of packaging together the mapping, the scanning, the segmentation, et cetera. Do you see that, I guess, being separated out even more, or do you think it'll always stay together as kind of this ARDK, like larger SDK?
So I can talk of efforts to bring feature sets separately to have like a lower impact on the size of the app, because each of those features bring a certain binary size and also like resource usage. And there is an effort to separate things, making it more a la carte. I don't have like a specific timeline to share with you at this moment, but that's definitely something that we're looking into.
Cool. Thank you.
Hello. I'm just curious, since y'all are going to be outsourcing the usage of this technology, and currently it looks like it was a little bit more internal, and it was great to learn about Ingress. I'd actually never heard of it, but it's cool to hear how it fed the process of what we have today. But who owns the mapping data? And is the business team starting to call the shots and have other ideas about, hey, we'd like you to do this with the data because we have these plans? And where will it live and how will it be used in the future?
Should I take this one, or do you want to take a stab at it?
Why don't you go first?
Okay.
Let's take like the example you showed of a statue in a public place, and now you have a perfect map of a park.
Yes. So I think what we want to do, the ultimate goal is to power very rich AR experiences. And so what we're going to do as Niantic, and the mission that also Brian reminded of, and also John in his keynote earlier, is that we are founded around 3 pillars. One is exploration, one is exercise, and one is social. And the ultimate goal of the company is really to foster those 3 pillars and push people, especially our partners, to also have alignment on those. And the long-term details of how exactly we're shaping things, like what you were asking about, I think will depend on what is the best way for us to achieve those goals, if that makes sense.
Like, I guess the more brass tacks is like, would you be selling this data?
I don't think I can talk to it as a software engineer in the team. So I'm sorry, I don't think I can answer this question directly.
I think part of your question is about property rights in augmented or virtual reality. There's kind of established rules about physical location. Somebody does own that land or that statue, but who owns that virtual object? Neither of us are lawyers, and I don't want to misspeak in front of the AWE audience, but that is a fantastic question. Let me follow up with our team, and I'll get back to you.
Definitely.
Hi, I'm Robin from Intuitive. So I have a question about Lightship SDK. So for now, I can see a lot of Lightship SDK was integrated with mobile and also the general platform or mobile platform. But I'm wondering, is there any kind of incoming plan or for like headset, like the HoloLens 2, or maybe the new Spectrum Spectacle from Snap, or maybe you could see Oculus Quest has the pass-through that might apply the same kind of tracking solution or something. So is there any kind of plan for supporting all those headsets?
So there is no specific announcement that I can make, but Niantic invests and believes very strongly in AR. As part of that, the transition from mobile to headwear is definitely part of the roadmap, and that's why we have this partnership with Qualcomm, where we are designing a reference design so that hardware manufacturers can build something that best supports the Lightship ARDK eventually. But I can't give you like specific plans in terms of supporting existing headwear right now.
So SDK is not like open to any headset, I guess. That's kind of question for kind of, is it support multi-platform or is it exclusive to?
It is meant to be multi-platform. Generally, like I think Niantic believes in supporting, like just like right now we support both iOS and Android because that's what people already have in their pockets.
Yeah.
I think that we are going to continue in that way, and I think that the design specification with Qualcomm also is in that spirit of like a more open future.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are at time, and so that was our last question, but Anthony and I will be available to answer any
Yes.
questions you might have. Thank you so much for coming to our Niantic Talk.
Yes. Thank you very much.